Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. My name is Aaron Locks, and you have found the Youth Sports Mastery. I'm excited today. Kind of a fun journey to get to where we're at today. Having Alicia join us, which I'll introduce in a minute, or actually let you, Alicia, kind of tell your story and how we kind of got here. But as part of the Youth Sports Mastery, which is part of the Daily Parks and Rec Show, I'm amazed at the amount of momentum, feedback. Keep the emails coming, the messages through LinkedIn and everything, because this has just been incredible. You know, as the founder and CEO of the National Cap Athletics, I get to be involved in youth sports every day and go through the process. But talking with people like Alicia and the other guests that have come through, it's been a ton of fun. Craig, if you could do me a favor and let's run the promo so everybody gets a chance to see the bigger picture of what's going on, and then we can dive right on in.
Welcome to DPRS Media Co., the first media company built for the people behind the Parks and Rec community. We don't just cover on Parks and Rec, we elevate it, we amplify it, we honor it. At the heart of everything we do is one mission: to serve the public servants, the professionals who design, maintain, and lead the parks that shape our communities. Under the Daily Parks and Rec Show, we produce 6 powerful platforms. Leadership in Parks and Rec, a spotlight on directors, superintendents, and visionaries shaping the future of public spaces. Facility maintenance, where the boots hit the ground, a deep dive into the systems, crews, and craftsmanship that keep our parks clean, safe, and beautiful. Young Professionals Network, shining a light on the next generation of Parks and Rec. Students, interns, and mentors sharing how we build a legacy together. Youth Sports Mastery, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. This series is for coaches, parents, and rec leaders working to make youth sports fun, fair, and meaningful again. The Rec Room, hosted by the passionate leaders of Henry County Parks and Rec. This show brings frontline energy and real-life stories from the field. And the weekly Parks and Rec Post, our official newsletter delivering stories, insights, and community wins every week. We are DPRS Media Co., LLC, a media company with a mission to uplift the professionals who serve every community, every park, every day.
And we're back. There we go. All right. How you feeling, Alicia?
It's a great day today.
It really is. It's a chaotic day, but that's how life is. So I guess I should preface this that this is not our first time meeting. I want to let the universe know that you and I met at Project Play. I think, was it in March? I'm just trying to.
Yep, end of March.
March in Berkeley, California. There we go. We got to get on campus at Berkeley and kind of experience that. I was blown away with your project that you're involved with, the passion you bring forward to it. Having a daughter that played sports, it's very near and dear to my heart. And I have a granddaughter that's going to play and all that. So I'm gonna step back and allow you, if you would, please, to just kind of tell a little bit more about you, kind of how you got there, and a little more about the Her project, what you got going on.
Sure. Pretty exciting things happening, but I am the program director for Coaching Her, which is part of the Tucker Center for Research on Girls and Women in Sport at the University of Minnesota. We are the first research center ever, 36 years old, and we're the global leader. Not many, people in youth sports understand that. It's more on a global level with leaders that understand who we are and what we do. But most research that you see kind of touches us in some way, somehow. And my journey to the Tucker Center, which was my ultimate dream job. I mean, I don't think I could work for a better organization and really make an impact on sport. It was about 30 some years in youth sports. And my big takeaway as I started my journey from going from college and pro athlete into sports, into leadership roles, was really, there wasn't a space for me. I got pushed out a lot. I got relegated to, coaching the little kids. If I started to work in the office running marketing or something, they'd always put me on task of doing secretarial work or assistant work. And I just kept getting pushed out. The space wasn't there. And so finally one day I was inducted into a Hall of Fame, and I found out that there was one guy who I knew when I was little who championed me. And I realized in that moment, I mean, it was such a pivotal moment in my life, that one person can make a difference, and it can be just championing someone. And from that moment on, I decided to vocate my life to more gender equity, so in sports, so that little girls can have big dreams and they can make those a reality. And every girl can reach their desired potential, whether it's just participating and enjoying it or going all the way up into leadership positions. And so that's what I've been doing. And I've spent my whole adult life doing it and loving most of it.
Right. Well, I mean, I tell everybody I've spent my first job was working with John Wooden, right? And I've spent my entire life doing that. They're like, oh, you've got, you know, yeah, but it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work that you got to put in to do that. It's interesting to me, though, because first of all, it's a little sad to hear that you had that journey, and I'm kind of want to go kick somebody in the shins because it's not right, you know, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, you weren't in a third world country, you're in the United States. And they were doing it. It's like, come on, people, what's wrong with these people, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, sports, I'm loving what I'm seeing in some of the trends in sports, but in terms of, you know, what I'm seeing in terms of the women's side of things and WNBA and others, but I'm also really scared. When you and I were at Project Play, and we read the stats, right, that in the 90s and 2000s, that 9 out of 10 boys and girls would play a team sport each year, right? They had the opportunity to do that, and now it's less than half, right? And like, oh my gosh, it makes me scared, because really, as we both know, there's no better life skill teaching tool than youth sports, right? But I want you to talk a little bit. I've got this whole list of stuff for you, but I want to start with give me a little more about your journey in sport and how that kind of, because you obviously were able to climb through it. So what first of all, let's tell everybody what was your sport and kind of go from there.
My sport was any sport I could play. So in high school, I did. I mean, we only had so much. I mean, we didn't even have high school soccer for girls because I was 3 when Title IX came into effect. And I ran cross country, I ran track, I played basketball, I played tennis in high school. And our high school was just 10th through 12th grade. Okay. And then I went on to run track at college at Wisconsin. So we were just a phenomenal school, top 5 in the country. And then, but my dream, I should say this, I mean, this is really important and this is impactful in my life, is that when I was a little girl, all I dreamed about being was a pro basketball player. And I remember standing in the kitchen one day, and my mom really does not enjoy this story being told, but I was in the kitchen, I could see the whole thing, rotary phone with a long cord. And my mom asked me what I wanted to be. And I said, well, duh, I want to be a pro basketball player. And she looked at me and said, oh, you can't, honey. They don't have that. And I remember in that moment how defeating that was. And when I look back, the choices I made going forward from that moment were different than if I thought I could do it, if it was an opportunity that would have been there. So I made my choices just on that comment alone, and that opportunity to exist changed my trajectory. But when I was in Sweden, the craziest story, got off the plane with my husband at the time, who was a pro hockey player, who's going to play in the Swedish Elite League as well in hockey. Noticed there wasn't any outdoor like tennis and basketball courts. The next door neighbor, I mentioned it to him that, you know, where do people play basketball? And he's like, oh, you play basketball? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, how about on Monday night you come on by? There's a bunch of women at play. You could, you know, I'll take you. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, no basketball shoes or anything. I go, we play. It was so much fun. I had so much fun. And afterwards, the husband of one of the players actually was the head coach. And he came up to me and said, hey, would you like to join the team? We have a spot. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it was a tryout for the Swedish Elite League.
Wow.
And I made the team. It was awesome. So I had just a really good experience, and I got to fulfill my dream.
That's awesome. So obviously being a lifelong athlete, right? And it's obviously, I mean, we can tell story after story of how it shaped you into who you are. But let's go back to the kids, because okay, on the Parks and Rec here in the Daily Parks and Rec show, and what we're doing with Youth Sports Mastery, it's important to me that, you know, our audience is going to be Parks and Rec people. It's going to be parents, a lot of parents, right? I'm getting a lot of messages. People work with schools.
Yeah.
You said something there I want to pick up on that thread and pull on a little bit, that your mom was kind of like saying, you know, almost like unintentionally just wiped your dream out, right? And so especially for girls, let's stay in that space there. As I know from my daughter, which I believe kids could actually fly if we didn't tell them they couldn't, right? I watch my kids when they learn to get up and walk, they get up, fall down, get up, fall down, they learn to walk. They do that, right? So so what would you say is a pivot? What was the lesson that really, because it said that's kind of where the inspiration has all started down the journey for you as a parent. Let's talk directly to parents. Parents, if you're listening right now, Pelton's going to give you a therapy session right now. What is the piece that you can say to the parent about be careful what you say? It can and will be used against you in terms of your kid, right? In their mindset. So
give
me a little bit on that, especially in the girl space, especially with young girls.
Yeah, I think with young girls, and I have a son and a daughter, and then in my current relationship, there's 4 more with 2 girls and 2 boys. In a range of athletic abilities and interests. I'd say the biggest thing with girls is, one, girls are very perceptive of what's going on because the world asks a lot about girls. And there's differences between girls and boys and similarities, but I think one of the most important things to remember is that there's a lot of expectation on us because yes, you can be a great athlete, but yes, you need to follow the rules. And yes, you need to look like this. And yes, you need to do all these things. And the amount of pressure and anxiety that girls are under right now is so much greater than the boys. And all the data shows this. And so trying to teach your daughter that her body is more about being strong and what it can do versus what it looks like is really important, because number one reason why girls drop out of sport is body image. And a little side note on that, girls tend to be on their phones on Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat looking at unrealistic expectations of bodies, and boys tend to be more on Discord having conversation with other boys. So there's a big difference between the two of them. I would say that, and that to go out and play with them and be with them and just respect their interest and where it lies, kind of meeting them where they're at. We spend a lot of time with our boys, kind of that stereotype of their interest in athletics and kind of pushing them that way and watching games with them. And dad's watching, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, dad's watching games, dad's taking them to the baseball field, dad's doing this. Girls are being perceptive. They're seeing what the moms are doing, what the female role is in the family, and starting to kind of follow. So kind of looking at your own stereotypes and biases as a parent, of realizing that you're impacting them, because the little girls are picking it up. We're very, very perceptive.
Right.
And so we don't think that we belong in that space. And why, out of all the expectations that are going on in society right now for what we need to be, why do we want to spend time and energy in a space that maybe we're not welcome in or there's no future in?
This gets a little deeper, but I was actually with a group in San Diego, and there was a group of teachers, and the comment came up about when a boy had pulled a girl's hair, and the teacher said, "Oh, honey, it's okay. It's just because he thinks you're cute and he has a crush on you." And it started a whole conversation about, like you just said, wait, that's teaching wrong stuff, right? So part of the what you just said, and just kind of bringing in, I don't know why I thought of that. It just I'm like, whoa. We, whether it's males or females, and having the role models that are there, have to realize, like you said, there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences, and how we communicate and go forward. I know for my son, it's, let's get after it. With my daughter, it's okay, let's make a plan, right? Let's make a plan and kind of go forward from there. So in your space, what you're seeing, and you deal with a lot of this, and what I love is that you also come from not just the athletic side of it, and obviously a parent of, but you also have the data. Yeah, you got the stats.
Data tells the story. Yes, it does.
So let's talk stats for a second. So can you tell me, because when we were at Project Play, they were talking about The reason I'm doing this, I want to kind of reel in those parents that are listening that aren't thinking, well, I don't know if I want my daughter to play sports for some of the reasons that you said, right? It's kind of, I'm not sure. But isn't it true that girls that play sports through the age of 16 or girls that play team sports, like in business and in life and success, is there some stats that you can share? I know I'm just throwing it at you, but isn't there something out there that can help maybe incite a parent to think, yeah, you know what? If my daughter is on a team or does play team sports through, this is going to be potentially the benefit?
Yeah. I mean, the benefits of girls participating in sports are so vast. It's probably one of the most impactful ways to change a girl's life and her trajectory. So, occupationally, I think everybody's heard 94% of the C-suite women played sports, right? So,
Wait.
right.
Say that again, because that's a fact, Jack. That's not a made up whatever. This is the numbers, lady. This is the numbers. Say it again so they all get it. Go ahead. Say it again.
Okay. So 94% of the women in C-suites, so who have advanced their career, played sports. So student, and girls are more likely to graduate. They're more likely to be successful in their occupation. They're going to be healthier. They're going to have healthier periods, body image, which is really important going forward. They're going to have better social skills. They're going to have less anxiety. I mean, all the data shows all of it. It is so impactful, especially when you start them at a young age. But we know that little girls, only 1 in 3 even choose to start playing. And then once they're in there, they start dropping out. And by high school, it's just a huge dropout rate. And part of that is they just don't feel like they could fit in the space. They're just overwhelmed with everything. They have anxiety. No one is really encouraging them to take that space. And I think part of it is that we're not meeting girls where they're at. Sport has been developed is so male. I mean, it's run by men. It's officiated by men. The rules are made by men. The equipment's male. And it's changing. But do we meet the girls where they're at? I mean, some girls maybe, offering 5 days a week of practice and a game on the weekend is too much. And in some cultures, it's unacceptable because the girls are expected to stay at home and watch their siblings. Right. And we can't change that. I can't change that. That's something society and culture will eventually change. But kind of looking at how do we meet the girls where they're at? How do we create sports that meet the girls where they're at? How do we embrace the sports that girls want to play? And kind of recognize that.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm thinking back. So my daughter, and she played cheerleading and soccer and basketball and volleyball. She played everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
What we want. But I remember I always want to know my kids' why or help create a why for them, right? Yeah. And so I have a little survey that we use at the National Academy of Athletics that I give to parents during orientations to understand, to literally take a quiz of your kids, like 10 questions, why they're doing what and that. And then you ask yourself the same questions. And then you look and go, oh, I'm not on the same page with my child, right? Yeah. Interesting enough, my daughter's top 2 were play with her friends. So her friends were doing it, which, that's right. Safety in numbers. Mm-hmm. And the other one was she liked the matching uniform. And so what we did, she was out there in softball and we got her the matching socks and the ponytails. By the way, I ponytails. I was a girl dad. I'm proud of that, But that's part of the deal, right? So to you saying meet them where they're at, I want to dig a little deeper when you say meet where they're at. Okay. Let's go to the next. So we're talking about the leaders in sports, whether you're in charge of a girls softball league or a girls soccer team or whatever it is. How can we make it more ingratiating to the girls to want to come out? Because I'm seeing Little League that on the boys side baseball, there's 600 kids and the girls softball, there's 90.
Right. Well, I mean, the biggest thing is just culture of the sport and the environment they're in. If I had a little like magic wand where I could just say, here's the easy solve, I think I would make a lot of money on that. But it's so complicated. You're looking at, the culture, the coaches. We know that when women coach, girls stay in this game longer. Okay. That's data shows that. We know when you ask the girls what they want, they'll stay in the game longer. If you give them choices in their environment, choices of rules. I mean, you have some power here to help navigate those choices, but choices in their however you want to work it into your team. But if they have choices, when you show girls that you care and that they trust you and they can build that trust, which is really hard. We don't give trust easily because we see what society wants us to be, and that really eats away at our trust. Because of what people are saying to us and what we're seeing, and we can't really be who we are. And I'd say then really understanding that girls are competent and to push them in that way. But here's the big difference that we have kind of seen. Boys and girls are not the same, and they're not different. We're all uniquely different.
Right.
And that's partly due to nature versus nurture. So nature, we are different because we develop differently. We hit puberty at a different time. When we hit puberty, things change. We injure differently. We concuss differently. We, have a higher rate of tearing our ACLs because of what our muscle mass is doing when we hit puberty, which is versus what boys are doing. Right. So there's the nature part of it. And then there's the nurture part of it. If we treat girls differently in society. So girls experience the world differently than boys do. Right. And with that in consideration, what has been found is boys tend to play good to feel good. So, and girls tend to need to feel good physically, emotionally, socially, mentally to play good. If they're having an issue with a friend, a parent, it's with them. If they don't like, if they don't like the uniform, they don't play well. I can tell you a lot of stories about my daughter and trying to find the right, it has to be matching, but my daughter's short and she's curvy. And so we were really creative on how we came up with a uniform that matched.
Sum that back in, because I'm kind of like I'm looking for sound bites here. But there's a piece you said. So boys play to feel good. Mm-hmm. Girls tend to, if they feel good, they want to play.
Yeah. And there's many ways in which they need to feel good.
Right.
And so there's a lot of little nuances there that you can work with. I mean, here's just a really simple, creative way when some girls bring a lot of stress from the day and the anxiety. Remember, they have more anxiety than boys do. So when they're coming to practice, maybe some of that's they're holding on to that. Maybe there's a relationship issue. Maybe they're having a really bad period. They have lots of invisible identities. Yeah. But one coach, for instance, had note cards available. And if you were stressed about something, you would write that down and you would put it in the box so that you could keep it in the box during practice. And then if you wanted to take it back out and carry it with you after, you could. And like little things like that go a long way of just recognizing and seeing them where they're at, recognizing it, giving them the space to have it and help them, learn how to deal with it.
Yeah. It's funny. I do the same thing with Post-its at my meetings with my staff. You put them on the door. What are you worried about? And it's there. You can take it with you. You want, you can throw it out. But yeah, the same. That makes, it does work carrying for. All right. So then, what are the big barriers that you're seeing statistically or nationally that are preventing girls from playing? We talked a little bit about staying involved. I totally understand that, right? But I'm looking at let's go recruit girls to play. We should be out there, doing that. I know the one, which I'm really a big believer in, and I'm trying our best. In fact, at the National Academy of Athletics, I would say maybe 60% of my coaches are female.
Yeah, it's a big.
We're leaning into that. Girls rule, let's do it. But they listen, they follow directions, and they're really good educators and teachers. So I like it. But so what do you think you could, again, trying to give tips in the parks and recreation space? I'm not worried about club, elite, and travel. I'm really talking about just get these girls 6, 7, 8, 10 years old to want to go out and play. What is the barrier that you're feeling that maybe, is there something that is a thread that we can identify that potentially we can help break down?
Yeah, again, that's super complicated. I would say some of the big things that I see is that, we have these conversations, we talk about it, about the commitment. I work with a lot of national governing bodies too. Our program is free. We work with Parks and Recs, with national governing bodies, small clubs, high school leagues. What I see is that nothing's really changed. So, but I hear the word commitment, like we're committed to make this happen. We're committed to get more girls participating or retain more girls or get women coaching. And I hear it, but I don't see anything that actually the choices that organizations are making that actually reflect their commitment. You can't tell me as a little girl that you're committed to making it a better place for me if you don't do anything differently. We need to see it. We need to trust. So what I think needs to happen, or what we see, is that there needs to be a commitment there. People need to verbalize it. They need to communicate it out consistently, showing that we're going to hire more women coaches. We're going to have a better environment for those women coaches, because women coaches quit because the culture in an organization isn't great. Maybe they don't feel the space. Maybe they're not getting the awards. They're not getting the hired teams. They're not being recognized. That they're going to get attacked by parents more than the males are, because parents don't think they can do the job, even though we do it really well. So I think, the culture part of it's really important. And then kind of looking at what kind of choices can I make on the lower level, like actually with the girls. Are we reflecting them in social media and through our information? Are we giving them equal and quality times on the ice, on the fields, at practice? Are we giving them the same level of coaches that we're giving the boys? Are we recognizing that? Are we asking them what they want and what they need? Are we looking at their uniforms and not giving them white shorts, because every girl that menstruates, it's a nightmare.
Right.
And like, what are we doing that's we're listening to her voice and what she's saying, and then trying to create sports opportunities, meet them where they're at. I mean, for instance, right now flag football is doing a beautiful job.
Yes.
I mean, the increase in participation, they're finding that 50% of the players, the girls that are playing flag football, don't play another sport. That's the only sport they play. Because they're meeting them where they're at. They're doing something new and different. And it's a really good opportunity for girls to step up and try something new, where there's no expectations. It's not a gendered sport at all right now. It's females in flag is
Right.
different. And so I think just recognizing those girls where they're at, there's a lot of little cultural changes that need to happen and recognize and make sure they're getting equitable treatment, and that we're communicating it out to them.
So let me ask you, we're going to run up on the spot in a minute here, but real quickly, can you tell me your thought on for little kids, co-ed sport versus single gender sport? What do you
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's up right now. It's up to kind of the family and the girl. I think, physiologically, girls and boys are pretty much the same through that age 12. And if we do a good job with the social and the mental and the emotional part of it,
Yeah.
they can play together great. And sometimes it's great for families to have them play together because it's easier. Or maybe her best friends are all the boys. Like my daughter played co-ed hockey all the way through until she was 14. There was checking, and then it got a little dicey after that, and she chose else. But it kind of is up to them right now on where they want to be. And I think part of something we need to consider is parents really push, and they think they need to play on the boys team to get better, but it will happen organically if they play on the girls team. So I think it's fine. But if there's organizations out there, and especially in rural areas where they don't have an opportunity to play on an all girls team, which is an incredible experience. I'm not going to lie. It's an incredible experience. We, in some of the sports that I've worked on, created opportunities where you can pull a bunch of girls from rural area together to play in a tournament together or play in a camp together, so they get that all girls experience and they start to learn that all girls experience. I think an all girls experience is fun. Okay. It's different.
Yeah.
But it's up to the family.
I love that. It's up to the family. I also think that it's up to the leaders in the space. I'm including myself on this, to create those opportunities, in the parks and recreation space, especially. I will say, and you mentioned the word camp, and everybody knows I'm a camp guy, right? But the deal is, if for my daughter, for my son as well, but particularly for my daughter, they went to camps and clinics prior to the seasons, so they develop that confidence and understanding. So when she walked in, especially for my daughter, she knew where right field was, she knew where first base was, she knew the baseline, she understands all those concepts. So we're going to take a quick 1 minute break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about the coaches. Go ahead, Greg, let's run it.
Perfect.
At DPRS Media Co., we don't just create content, we elevate community through storytelling. Now, we're proud to introduce the newest addition to the family. Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery, the podcast where champions are shaped, not just on the field, but in life. Hosted by the doorman himself, Craig LeBlanc, and National Academy of Athletics founder Aaron Locks. Youth Sports Mastery dives deep into how youth sports can empower kids, strengthen communities, and build leaders. From coaching culture to recreation strategy, and from player development to parent impact, every episode brings game-ready insight from the people making it happen. Youth Sports Mastery goes live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics and powered by DPRS Media Co. This is where purpose meets play.
And we're back. Here at the Youth Sports Mastery, we're talking about girls in sports, female in sports. I'm really appreciate, Alicia, of your time and your expertise and the lifelong journey that you've been on. So before I dig into, I know we teased coaches and we'll get there, but I want to talk about mentorship for a second, because I do know that, for me, I've been blessed. My first baseball coach when I was 7, I'm still friends with, Coach Eslis, right? And from Coach Wooden and all the coaches that I've had in my life to do that. Talk a little bit about your mentors. I'm interested to see, you've lived a little and you've got some pretty cool ones in that. Tell me about give me a mentor or two that maybe has had an impact on you. And let's stay in the youth sports space, right? Because I know you've got a wide range of it. I'm giving you a second to buy some time while you think about the one. But I also want to say, because there's probably a lot of them, but what did they do? What did they bring to you? Because I think it's a great lesson for them to kind of figure it out,
Yeah. There's 2 huge mentors for me, and one of them was she doesn't even realize it, but it was Camilla, my tennis coach as a youth, who I ended up going back and playing for in high school. But she, single woman, gay woman, which was really a little bit more rare, publicly gay back in the time. But one of the best things she did for me is kind of took me for who I was, understood my gifts, understood my love for all the other sports, and knew I was like quiet. And she just kind of embraced that and challenged me along the way, because I wasn't just strictly a tennis player. Like, I played a lot of sports, and she was a phenomenal tennis coach. So she understood my athleticism and really embraced it and brought it into my game and let me go play my other things. And she just saw me for who I was along the way. It was so great. And so when I was in high school, I even swam when I was in middle school, and I was a really good swimmer too. So I was like, I could have swam in high school, but she was the coach, and I had been running cross country, and I was the #1 cross country runner. But she just, every year I couldn't help but think, should I go out for tennis? Because I had such a great experience with her. Like, she made me laugh. She just saw me for who I was. She wasn't hard on me in a negative way. And so finally my senior year, and like, you know what, whatever, I'm going to go play tennis. And my cross country coach was livid. And I went, and we went to state and got 4th in state that year. And I had the best time it's one of the best times of my whole life.
Yeah.
And then as I got older and I was working in youth sports on all different levels, there was a high school athletic director that really saw me and what I could do with gender equity and the thought process. And he was really open to that. And he kind of pulled me in and started opening these opportunities to try things, and gave me connections. And he believed in me as a woman who I haven't had that in a long time, and he really made me want to continue and get through some tough times to continue to where I'm at today.
It's amazing to me how I don't think people realize that the impact you have, parent volunteer coaching or whatever it is, that little bit, you don't know how important that is. And that's why I love being in the Parks and Recreation space, because, millions of kids get the impact every day from these relationships. And we'll see 30,000 kids on our summer camps, and we're going to probably get 30, maybe 34, 35% will be girls at our camp. And I just love hearing that. And we teach through our talk, teach, play system, and reinforcing the positive and challenging them to improve themselves, and yet celebrating the victories along the way, focusing on the effort rather than just the result, and making it so it's fast paced and fun, which is so important. So, nationally, what I hear, and it sucks and it's frustrating, is that coaches are quitting as quick as the kids are, right? That come in after 2 seasons, they say they're done. Now, they say they're done because parents are a pain in the tuchus. They say there's too much pressure and it's not fun. And it's funny, kind of the same that the kids are saying. But if I'm a Parks and Rec director, what can I do to bring more females into the coaching space? Because I agree with you. The mothering that naturally occurs. And I hope I'm not going to get hit by this. Or
No.
Pretty amazing. My mom never coached me, but what I love what my mom did is I'd go to the little schoolyard, and when I would shoot, she would just rebound and pass it back to me. She was just present with me. I was one of 5, and to have that, it was just an amazing experience. And so how do we get the female coaches, the female parents to come out? You can do this, right? We can. So how do we recruit them? How do we do more? Because I want more. I'm greedy.
Okay. So the data shows the number one way to get a woman to coach is ask her. So if you think of it, if you think of the stats, the research that shows that when there is a job being posted, especially in athletics, men will apply for the job if they have 60% of the qualifications. Women believe they need to have 100% of the qualifications.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of a confidence. We've been pushed out of these spaces. We didn't have great experiences when we were a kid either, because of these spaces. Do we really want to go there? We see what's going on. We see it. Young girls might not be able to vocalize it or have language for it, but we see what's going on. And so, the culture really makes a difference. I think so. Asking them, number one, looking at how are you supporting those women? We do get attacked more. And what I have found is that when we're getting attacked, our leaders are not stepping in and having our back. If you're not going to have my back, I'm out. I can't take it over a period of time. And what are the skill sets that women need to have, to deal with those parents? Is there something they can do up front to kind of deter that? And then, inviting them in something smaller. So, a camp or a clinic, give them the confidence to do it. One of the things that we did a long time ago was, not a long time ago, maybe like 10 years ago, when we started offering those girls opportunities to come together and play because they were playing on boys teams, we then started inviting in women coaches to run those camps and clinics. And it made all the difference in the world, because it gave them the experience to, see what it's like. And can they do it? Yeah, they can do it. And then trying to, co-coach together. Why can't we co-coach? Why can't we split it up? And the other thing too is if they're an assistant coach, is try to get them up into the head coaching job. And maybe they need to start at the assistant coach job, but maybe get them up to the head, but talk to them about it. What questions do they have? Do they understand? And then tell them, they have the ability to do it. Not just telling them they have the ability, but why? What are those abilities that really set them apart? And I think once you start to build that confidence and they see you have their back, they're staying.
So I'm actually taking notes on this, because I'm gonna follow up on this. But I as you'll see, I like to make sure there's takeaways from these things. So if we leaders, and I'm going to include myself after 4 decades, I guess I can give myself the wear that hat in the youth sports space, want more girls to play sports. We've agreed, right, Alicia, we've agreed, those listening, that if they have good role models that look like them, if they're female, get a female, right, and have those coaches, there's a better chance you're not only going to be interested in playing in the first place, but there's a better chance you're going to stay with it. So what we need to do is 3 things. One is we just got to ask these females to coach. We got to be willing to say, yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. Come coach. Number 2 is we have to support them. We have to give them maybe even more support in the sense we don't need to overshadow, because there's a lot of bad, mama jamas out there that can take care of business, but give them the support and the tools to be successful, right?
Correct.
And as soon as possible, what I'm going to say is get the heck out of their way. Let them lead, give them the support, and then let them take, because if we're really focused on youth sports is the best, the most amazing life experience teacher,
it is.
Then you know what? Then let's do this. Let's commit to doing that. If you're a Parks and Rec professional, get out there, go out, find the women, ask them to come and coach, support the heck out of them, and let them lead. And you know what? If we focus on the fact that they're going to lead through helping the kids want to keep playing, because most Parks and Rec leaders, you know what they say to me? If the kids are safe and they come back next season, you've done a great job. That's great. So why are we putting pressure on coaches that they have to win the games? I want them to learn to compete, but let's win kids. Let's win kids, right?
Yeah. Well, if women are in those roles where girls can see, the data says 33% higher retention.
Drop the mic, right? Boom. Let's go get them. Let's get them. Let's make that happen. I'm in. Okay, so ask, support, and put them in a leadership role. Yeah, and then go for the ride.
Yeah, you know what? One other thing I would say is let them have a voice at the table. A lot of times you don't bring them to the table. If there's a coach's event, are the women leading the coaching event? Give them a voice.
Oh, okay. So not only and the other one is if you're in a league, and we're bringing women into coach, but then you have a board of directors and it's all men. Come on, people. Right? We gotta find a way through this. You know what I mean?
You need 3. Data shows 3 on a board removes gender as an issue. Because 1 just means you're the rep. That's kind of you're the token, right? So you need 3.
Okay. You cracked me up because even when we first met, everything you've got stats. You just boom, stat, boom, stat, which is great because maybe come out and listen. They're like, "Yep, I need the stat," and that says it. These are really, if you just whether you use AI or Google or just ask somebody, it's kind of commonsensical, right? Girls that play sports do better in this. They have a better image. They do this. They have that.
Yep.
Let's not put them in stupid little uniforms that are going to make them feel uncomfortable. These are just do the little things, and then look what's going to happen. And the rewards are immense, right? They're unbelievable.
Yeah, too many to even say in a time period.
Right. So let's talk about role models. Let's talk about pro sports for a minute, because I guess I'm watching the sports as they grow, and obviously whether it's tennis or soccer or basketball. Our next week we've got a lady named Shelly Rusty, who was a 20-year college basketball official, worked in the WNBA. Actually, she was the assigner of officials. So that you're going to tune into that one.
Yeah.
But so she's an amazing role model and mentor, right? So who are you thinking that if I'm a parent of a daughter, right? I want who should my kids be watching? Whether you have any that you would think, what, they should watch this. For me, what I like to have them watch college sports because it's more connected, or watch the high school sports, the girls, because it's more connected. But I'm curious, what you got anybody out there that you're seeing, or maybe you guys work with, that you think would be a good?
Oh, there's so many. There are so many great women out there right now at the pro sports level. I would say almost everybody I love, and I'm dyslexic and I can't pronounce her name very well. It's Iona Mallet, the rugby player.
Okay.
Follow her on Instagram. Her body image, content, and just being who she is beautiful. Anyone from the WNBA, because there's a lot of drama going on right now, which sports cause there's drama.
Yeah.
It's really interesting and fascinating to watch. But it's got to be a range. I think you have to, it's at the pro level, it's at the college level, embracing a sport that you like and maybe one or two of the athletes. And then at the high school level is really important. And I don't think it's just the girls that need to follow it. I think it's the parents, both of them, and whether it's male or female or whoever, they need to follow. And I would get their sons to be following this as well. And so when you're coaching, even if you're coaching a boys team, you're commenting on these players that you're following them. And so you're starting to ingrain that into the system. And the other big piece then would be to see if you can get those high schoolers or even college athletes to come into some of those practices every once in a while, to connect with those younger so they can see what they can be. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm going to be a college athlete. It can be the type of person they are, their character, understanding that as a child.
Yeah. It's so amazing when I remember bringing my daughter to go watch, whether it's like the Sonoma State basketball team, and watch the women play, and the connection of just seeing that, you know what I mean? It's amazing, especially in basketball is great because, my daughter was tiny, and she barely came up to their shorts, and it's really cool to see those things in the connection. And I'm gonna use a word. I think it's interesting because the way the media is playing, because they're making money in the WNBA, the drama, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if that was happening on the men's side, it would just be tension. It would just be that. So I'm trying to, because I think what happens is that they're not, I want them to see, when I watch what's going on out there, they're competing, right? They're out there. They're bringing it every single day. They're doing the work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I love it, and seeing how we're bringing that up with them. So I love that.
Yeah. I when I use drama, I use it for both men and women and all genders. I try, though, as you said that, I'm thinking I really should probably stay away from that word, because it does get associated with girls and women more than it does with boys. I live in this space, so I am then when I think of drama, I think of a certain something, not a gender. But I agree. But what the really neat thing that's happening at the WNBA level is how the women are handling it and their communication out. I think they're doing a really good job and kind of calming it down. There's a moment in the game where it's heated. Yes. Like, get really competitive, and that's okay. There's value there. And then, handling like it was just on the court, because when they go play for USA basketball, they're all best friends. Right. So understanding that I think is really great. It takes it to another level.
Well, that's perfect, because it's a lead in, and I've got two questions. One that I got from Craig, which I think is really important, and I'll get to it in a second, but I want to ask you, the social emotional development that we get to pick up on as we go forward. It's really weird, because I feel like, in a way, girls get more out of sports than boys do. Right? Yeah.
I mean,
maybe not all the time, but you can see. So how would you say for you, because I love the word empowerment, right? It's kind of a thing, especially with girls, watching them kind of come up and go through it. Can you talk just a little bit about maybe some of your concepts, ideas, just in terms of if they're coaching, whether it's a male or female, of how the coach can help empower, help them socially, emotionally to lift those girls up? Because you are right. Girls and boys are different, right? Mm-hmm. How you approach things. You don't have to be. My system actually works for everybody, but not everybody has that skill set or whatnot. So talk a little bit for me, if you would, a little bit about the social and emotional components if you're coaching girls, right?
So again, there's nature versus nurture, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about nurture right now, and how society treats girls, and how to social and emotional on where they're at now because of how we were raised. Doesn't mean that's who we are if we weren't raised this way. So one of the things is we have to, help girls understand where they're at. So again, it's meeting them where they're at. So if there's one girl who might be having an emotional time, and there's a boy having an emotional time, understanding each of our emotions, boys, maybe they're more aggressive on that emotion, or maybe they're more wimpy, or not wimpy, like crying and then emotion. And maybe girl is more aggressive, or maybe she's crying. Right. How do we work with that individual? on that. And then how do we work with the girls as a team? So I would say boys have a tendency to have a little bit more of a hierarchy on a team where they can acknowledge there might be a better player and they can look to that player on the court. And so social, emotional, they can go there with that.
Okay.
Girls tend not to. They don't really like to compete against other girls. They're a little bit more of a web. They want to compete against themselves. So in practice, I would not be, like, you're going against her. Why can't you be more like her? That will just, it would just demolish them.
Right.
But more, how do we work together as a team? And yeah, there's going to be some conflict on that team. But when there is conflict like that, addressing it right away, especially on, like, don't let it build, and help them where they're at. And that can be complicated, especially if there are men coaching and they don't understand what a girl's gone through, what all of her hidden identities are like. And they don't understand that it's hard to address some of those issues. And that is why we have the foundational modules in Coaching Her, is so that coaches can go in and start to reflect and think about their experiences and how they impact, whether it's, it's about empowering engagement. We have a module on that, whether it's, stereotypes and biases, or it's hidden identities, or it's, supporting their needs, trying to understand that, reflect how they have been treated, how it impacted them as a coach, how they think it might impact the girl, and then maybe tweaking a little bit on coming up with better ways to communicate with them.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's a decision that you have to make, and a conscious effort to be present and aware of it, right? And a lot of us men, particularly, we have challenges with that area. So we
don't know what you don't know.
Right. That's why we're sharing it today, right? That's why we're sharing. Right, so now here's the crazy question, and I can tip a little to this, but you've got a mom and dad that are divorced. You got a daughter that lives with dad. And how does he help his daughter to go play sports if she's not into it, right? So maybe she likes sports, maybe she doesn't, whatever. How do we help there's dads out there that got daughters that they want them to play sports. How do they get that in? Especially maybe there's no female role model or no mom in their life. First of all, I would say it's even more important for them to go play sports, right? Yeah. But you got any ideas on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not been researched, but I can tell you what my intuition is telling me right now. One is, a slow introduction of an environment of which sports exist. So whether you're outside playing or you're tossing the ball every so often and you're talking about it, taking them to college games, high school games, pro games, watching it on TV. She doesn't have to be sitting with you, but it's there. And make sure you're watching the women's games, not just men's everything, because that's going to make an impact. She's going to definitely know she's not that she's not welcome in the environment. And then what sports is the dad trying to get her to play? So think about maybe the dad's pushing sports that the girl doesn't want to play. Maybe she's unaware of something. So experimenting and seeing about different sports. Maybe she's into bowling. Maybe she's into downhill skiing. I mean, there are a lot of sports out there that a girl can play, and a lot of, untraditional sports, right, especially sports that are growing, and just trying to find it. And then it's getting a friend to do it, because we know that girls, if they do it with a friend, they'll do it.
That was gonna be my suggestion, gentlemen. I don't want to lose the thread, because when you said something, a slow introduction to sports, right, and doing it in an environment where it's not pushed on, you have to do it, but let's just check it out. Let's just let's just put our toe in the water, see what's going on. We don't have to go swimming yet. We can just be around it a little bit, right? And I love the fact that, like you mentioned, which is good, is to kind of experience it with them and do it with them. I'm really big on going through there. And if I'm honest, the other one that I again, I'm a camp guy, but get them to a camp, get them to a recreational camp where they can go in and try it for a clinic for a couple hours or whatever, because what we find is the kids that come through the camp experience, they fall in love with it and they want more. They meet friends like, hey, this is my new friend, my lifelong buddy from whatever. And hey, girls, you want to go and drive them that way.
Yeah. I mean, friends make a really big difference. My partner's two daughters, when they entered high school, they didn't play any sports. And I really encourage them to do so. And so high schools that offer kind of a recreational part of the sport is wonderful. Not all high schools do that, but they ended up going into tennis and track. And they've stayed with it because of the friends. And the friends really matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in life, let's be honest, right? Friends is a good thing. It's a very important thing. You're a product of those you spend your time with.
Yeah.
You spend your time. What I found for my daughter is because she was always, it's funny in the office here, I've got two girls that played soccer with my daughter starting at 8 years old that are interns here at the National Academy of Athletics. And it's hilarious because my daughter's off doing her thing. And I took a photo, a selfie with them. She's like, wait, why are they getting all the fun? So, connecting the dots. But, I mean, and that's 15 years later or whatever. So that's very cool about it.
Yeah.
So I know we're running against the clock here quick. I got one more, and this is a tough one for you.
Okay.
But you're in the space, so let's give it. I'm going to give you the magic wand. And you get to create one national initiative that is going to that's bold, that is going to dramatically increase the participation of girls playing youth sports. What? Give me one. Give me something that just says yes. This it's not an initiative. What do we got to do? Give me one thing or a couple.
Okay, it's going to be funny. All the leaders have to be women.
Oh. You know what? We're messing up. We could try. Yeah, okay. But that's not bad. Okay, but I think there's a lot of truth. What you're saying is, if we put women in charge, particularly in the youth sports, women's, girls space, there's a lot better chances. You've already said 33% more likely, right? That they're going to get in and do it. Okay.
But I mean, if you think about it, you think men they're the equipment designers. They run the companies, they officiate, they make the rules, they make the policies. So if you had women in there with a new, it broaden the lens, and I'm not saying just a women's only lens. And like if you broaden the lens, you're gonna change the game.
Yeah. Okay. I'm buying that. I'm buying that.
I mean, that's a far reach. But I mean, even if it was, just for a year, all I'm saying is that if we could change some policies, if we could change the number of women, I mean, it's all going to make an impact.
But if we can't change everything, we can change something. So you're in Parks and Rec. Don't immediately think, oh, let's ask Dad. Let's ask Mom. You know what I mean? Let's ask Mom. And I think there's definitely something to be said for that. There really is on that. Okay, so if people want to get more information from you, they want to learn more about her. They want to understand more, or I'm a parent that wants to get involved, or I need data. Where do they go?
Yeah, they can go to coachingher.com. So currently at this point, we have our learning modules, and we're expanding out into webinars and coffee talks, and called the Coaches Collective, where we're going to offer, starting in August, little moments of time with 30 to an hour where parents, coaches, leaders can jump on calls to discuss all sorts of things that have to do with girls. And then we work with organizations, all different sizes, and it's free to become a champion, and they can have our content, and they can promote. We offer promotional materials, et cetera, and we help them commit to change and actually make choices that work with that change. So it can be a small, like we work with US Club Soccer and like USA Hockey, and then we work with some of the smaller clubs too. We work with high school leagues, we work with Parks and Rec, and they can be part of that. And then hopefully we'll start with our Coaching Her podcast in the winter, and that will be something they can listen to on the way to practice. It'll be less than 10 minutes, and it'll be very topic specific, so they can choose their topic, choose their own journey.
Awesome. Love it. We have a tradition that has been started on the youth. Look out.
Oh no.
We're big on pay it forward. That's pay it forward. So we got to come up with what's a deep question. I'm gonna kind of lead you on the path, but that deep question that we want to leave for the next guest coming up. So someone that's coming up going forward, what's the question we want to ask? And I'm going to lead you down the path of, hey, what are you doing to get more girls playing sports? Is that a good one? What do you think? We got something stronger than that?
I was going to go with, if what's one rule you had to break or rewrite to change the game, what would it be?
One rule to break or rewrite to make it. Man, all right. Look at you. I like it. A rule breaker. Who knew that, Alicia?
I am so not a rule breaker either. So that's a good one.
No, don't ask me about that. So, hey, everybody, I appreciate you spending time and enjoying the show with us today. A lot of information, a lot of really good information. If you got a daughter playing sports, I hope you got a lot out of this. If you are in the youth sports leadership space, man, oh man, right? Watch this again. You're going to visit coachingher.com to find out more about what's going on there. If you want to get a part and be involved with the National Academy of Athletics on our mission to help kids fall in love with playing sports nationally, we are franchising. We actually got another one that's come to the hopper. It's been a really, really, really fun time. Catch me on all the different social medias. Let's connect. And Alicia, I appreciate your time and energy and look forward to working with you again in the future. So appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do.
You're welcome.
Welcome to DPRS Media Co., the first media company built for the people behind the Parks and Rec community. We don't just cover on Parks and Rec, we elevate it, we amplify it, we honor it. At the heart of everything we do is one mission: to serve the public servants, the professionals who design, maintain, and lead the parks that shape our communities. Under the daily Parks and Rec show, we produce 6 powerful platforms. Leadership in Parks and Rec, a spotlight on directors, superintendents, and visionaries shaping the future of public spaces. Facility maintenance, where the boots hit the ground, a deep dive into the systems, crews, and craftsmanship that keep our parks clean, safe, and beautiful. Young Professionals Network, shining a light on the next generation of Parks and Rec. Students, interns, and mentors sharing how we build a legacy together. Youth Sports Mastery, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. This series is for coaches, parents, and rec leaders working to make youth sports fun, fair, and meaningful again. The Rec Room, hosted by the passionate leaders of Henry County Parks and Rec. This show brings frontline energy and real-life stories from the field. And the weekly Parks and Rec Post, our official newsletter delivering stories, insights, and community wins every week. We are DPRS Media Co., LLC, a media company with a mission to uplift the professionals who serve every community, every park, every day.